the dawn of a warming world, a colossal shadow stalked the vast, frozen expanse. This was the age of the Amarok, the great wolf of myth, a creature of ice and legend. Its domain was a kingdom of endless white, where glaciers stretched like sleeping giants and the very air crackled with frost. For Melenia, this was the natural order, a delicate balance of hunter and prey, of biting wind and enduring strength. The Amarok, with its thick, silver-white fur and eyes like chips of ancient ice, was the undisputed apex predator, a living embodiment of the raw power of the Ice Age. But something was changing. A subtle warmth began to creep into the air, a gentle caress that felt alien in this land of perpetual winter. The sun, once a distant, pale disk, now seemed to hang longer in the sky, its rays growing bolder. At first, it was barely noticeable, a few extra drops of water trickling from the edge of a glacier, a patch of snow melting sooner than it should. The Amarok paid it little mind. Its world was eternal, its power absolute. The hunt was all that mattered. The herds of giant deer and woolly bison, its primary prey, began to act strangely. They shifted their migration routes, moving higher into the mountains, seeking the dwindling cold. The Amarok, driven by an instinct honed over countless generations, followed, but the hunts became more difficult. The once solid ice fields, perfect for chasing down its quarry, were now riddled with slushy patches and hidden crevasses. The thinning ice groaned under its immense weight, making every step a calculated risk. The familiar landscape was becoming treacherous, an unreliable ally turning into a subtle foe. Confusion began to gnaw at the great wolf. Its senses, which could detect a caribou from miles away, were now being tricked. The scents of its prey were carried on unfamiliar, warmer breezes, often leading to dead ends where the herds had been only days before. The ground itself seemed to betray it. What was once solid footing was now soft, muddy earth, slowing its powerful stride. The world was losing its sharpness, its clear, cold certainty. The primal rhythm of the hunt was disrupted, replaced by a growing sense of frustration and unease. The dying prey, weakened not by the wolf's strength, but by the changing land, offered less of a challenge and less sustenance. Then came the sound that would forever alter the Amarok's existence. It wasn't the howl of a rival or the cry of a beast. It was a deep, thunderous groan that echoed from the heart of the glaciers, a sound of immense tearing and shattering. The Amarok watched in stunned silence as a colossal wall of ice, a mountain it had known its entire life, buckled and collapsed. With a deafening roar, billions of tons of ancient ice plunged into the rising waters below, sending tidal waves crashing against shores that had never before seen the sea. The world didn't just change, it broke. The collapse was a cataclysm. The Amarok's ancestral hunting grounds were gone, swallowed by newly formed lakes and raging rivers of meltwater. The familiar paths, carved into the ice over centuries, vanished overnight. It was a refugee in its own kingdom, a king without a throne. Driven by desperation, the great wolf began a relentless search for new territory. It traveled for weeks, its massive paws treading on unfamiliar ground, soft earth, strange green shoots, and dense, dark woods it had never seen before. The air was thick with the scent of damp soil and decaying leaves, a far cry from the crisp, clean air of its frozen home. It was in these new, darker forests that it encountered a new kind of hunter. These creatures were small, upright, and weak-looking. Yet they moved with a strange confidence. They carried sharp sticks and wielded the one thing the Amarok had always feared: fire. Humans. At first, the Amarok viewed them with contempt, another species to be dominated. But these hunters were different. They worked together with an unnerving intelligence, setting traps and using their strange tools to bring down prey far larger than themselves. They were not part of the old world's balance. They were a new force, one that did not respect the ancient laws of nature. The Amarok saw them fell in the great trees, their strange metal tools biting into the wood. They built shelters, cleared land, and pushed the wilderness back with an relentless efficiency. The forests, which had seemed like an endless new frontier, began to shrink. The herds of deer and elk, the Amarok's last hope for survival, were decimated by these new, cunning predators. The great wolf found itself competing for scraps, a scavenger on the edges of a world it no longer understood. Its legendary prowess was no match for the organized, relentless expansion of humankind. The world continued to warm. The last of the great ice sheets receded into memory, becoming stories told around human campfires. The green of the new world spread like a stain, covering the last vestiges of the Amarok's frozen past. The great wolf, once the ruler of a continent, was now a solitary ghost. Its kind was gone, victims of the great melt and the rise of a new apex predator. It was the last of its lineage, a living relic of a lost ep. One night, under a sky filled with the same stars that had once looked down on a world of ice, the last Amarok climbed to the highest ridge it could find. It looked out over a landscape of dark forests and the distant, flickering lights of human settlements. The air was warm, filled with the hum of insects and the scent of flowers, a world that had no place for it. Taking a deep breath, it pointed its muzzle to the moon and let out a long, sad, lonely howl. It wasn't a cry of dominance or a challenge to a rival. It was a lament, a song for a world that was gone, for a kingdom of ice that had melted into myth. The howl echoed through the valleys, a mournful, fading sound, before being swallowed by the silence of the new age. The environment around it continued to fade, not into white, but into a green and brown world that no longer remembered the great white wolf. The age of ice was over. The legend of the Amarok had come to its end. Thank you for watching. If this story of change and survival moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more journeys into the worlds of myth and history. Your support helps us bring these incredible tales to life. We'll see you in the next one.